All right, hello everyone. This is Brandon, again, the American Formula One fan, giving you yet another video about the Formula One 2016 Mexican Grand Prix at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in the east side of Mexico City, Mexico. Yes, I know it's a mouthful. I say that a lot because they actually are a mouthful. I wanted to delay this video though, since there were so many penalties given after the race, and one in particular was just given out about 5 minutes ago, even though the race ended at 4:30. But about 5 minutes ago from the start of this recording. But more about that later. I think overall, though, a Grand Prix isn't just about the cars on the track or the personalities in those cars and the teams. It's just like the Olympics, where the host city, the country, to display their passion and pride for either racing and their country in general, and their teams and drivers that happen to represent them and possibly their culture. The crowd was already massive yesterday, and today wasn't any different. I didn't hear the final tally because I missed the very start of the race, but the stands definitely looked packed. It was definitely loaded to the max. Like, everyone seemed so psyched. They all had their team gear on. Like, almost seemed like everyone had either like Mercedes, Ferrari. Everyone had, they were supporting someone there. It was insane. Temperatures were similar to yesterday, and the track temperatures again were similar to yesterday, where they were abnormally hot, which is again not usual for a track to be like that. But on the start of the race, everyone was already gearing towards getting out the super soft, since they all knew from qualifying and practice that they didn't last under a hot temperature. Um, but that didn't have to wait very long, since the start of the race is always a hairy thing, because so many things can go wrong when you have standing starts like at Formula One does. Once the five lights turn off, everyone had a good start. Even Lewis Hamilton, who started on pole in front of his teammate Nico Rosberg, the driving standings leader. He can win his championship today. But so did everyone else, and the likes of Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel were right on their tails. But I think Hamilton was worried about Rosberg getting past him and missed a break. So he missed a braking zone in the start of turn one, and Hamilton went off track. But he didn't spin though, and he re-entered the track, still in P1. Rosberg following Hamilton, but he didn't. But he was getting chased by Verstappen in the Red Bull, who happened to be making a charge behind him, and he made contact with Rosberg and pushed him off the track slightly. He could have actually re-entered, but it would have been kind of a hairy situation. But it wasn't all too hard of a contact. But Rosberg took that as an opportunity to skip turn two and get right onto the straight at the end of turn three, right in front of Verstappen, probably giving him about like 2/10 of a second lead. But still, though, it was still a slight advantage. But wanted to give you a highlight. Remember that incident, because it's kind of important for the end of this race. They didn't do anything about that. They let it slide, and we went on racing, which I think was probably the right call. But that is racing, and I don't blame them for even um, for skipping turn two, because that's like a cleaner way of entering anyway. It's safer for everyone. Other incidents from turn one: Wehrlein and Ericsson touched on the start, causing Wehrlein to have a left front suspension failure, which caused him to retire. And Vettel had a punctured left rear tire, so which caused him to slowly go back to the pits, since yellow flags were raised because of the Wehrlein Ericsson incident. Also, Gutierrez was caught up in all this, but nothing too bad to worry about, considering they had a yellow flag. After super softs to get onto the softs and or the mediums, and no damage was really done, and we continued racing. Overall, though, I think like the tire choice today was definitely the medium tires, but more on the race. Overall, the cars were managing their tires, and top six cars showed their dominance over the rest of the field. But there was some sort of heated racing between the battle for position three. That was between Vettel and the Ferrari, Verstappen in the Red Bull, Riccardo and his teammate in the Red Bull, Raikkonen and Vettel's teammates in the Ferrari, and Hulkenberg of the Force India, the tiny little car from London. Tiny little team. And position 8 between Bottas, Massa, and the other hometown hero, Sergio Perez, who started in P10 and ended in P10. That's kind of a disappointing day for him. But ultimately, though, the reason why I say this is because Hulkenberg spun out on lap 69, and he didn't lose his P7 position. So good drive for Hulkenberg, starting in 5th and ended in 7th. Whereas his teammate Perez started in 10th and ended in 10th. So overall, it was better. Unfortunately, the race didn't get juicy until the typical last 5 laps, where the penalties were all given out, which I mentioned earlier in this video. Going into turn 1, Verstappen was in P3 and Vettel was trying to take it from him. Verstappen missed the braking zone at the same exact point where Rosberg was and skipped turn 2. It went out to the straight just like he did. Vettel's radio transmissions were that of a pissed off driver, but ultimately saying he needs to concede the position to him. But the race stewards were silent at this point, so Verstappen didn't concede the position. I don't really blame him though, personally, for not like he told him to, not like the race stewards told him to, and it's not like it was. And on top of that, this move was already done before on lap 1, turn 1, very start of the race. Nothing was done there, so why should they do anything now? But this whole battle allowed for Verstappen's teammate Riccardo to come up to challenge Vettel, where Vettel was even noticing that he was coming up, and that's the reason why he needed to pass Verstappen like as soon as possible. But then he finally did on Riccardo finally challenged Vettel on lap 70 into either turn 16 or 17, but Vettel shut the door on Riccardo even though there was a slight gap on the inside. But Vettel shut the door on Riccardo, trying to pass him on the inside, causing Riccardo to lock up his brakes and slide. He made slight contact with Vettel. He sort of ruined his tires in the process. But overall, though, it was some intense final laps where crossing the line was Hamilton in P1 taking the win, Rosberg, the race leader, championship leader, in P2, Verstappen in P3, Vettel in P4, Riccardo P5. But after the penalties, Verstappen received a 10-second penalty for his move on Vettel for skipping turn 2. So he was given, and Vettel was also given a 10-second penalty for a dangerous move on Riccardo. So the new race order is Hamilton first, Rosberg second, Riccardo third, Verstappen fourth, and Vettel fifth. Even though Vettel's move wasn't even given, his penalty wasn't given until 7:30 today, Central Time, and the race ended at 4:30. I think it's kind of ridiculous since they already gave him the trophy and all that, and he drank the champagne, and it's kind of weird. And they didn't charge Verstappen's penalty until like the very end of the race. Like he's sitting in the green room, waiting to receive his third place penalty. His third place trophy, and like he was told to leave, and Vettel had to run all the way in to receive it. It's kind of crazy. I think like Verstappen's move should have probably been penalized immediately. Some kind of decision needed to be done immediately, because that ultimately resulted at the end of the race, because Riccardo's penalty probably would have never happened if Vettel was able to pass Verstappen in the first place. But here are the race results. I just wanted to show that now. I'll show it at the very end as well. Maybe I'll just keep it up at the end of this video completely. Overall, it was an intense race, and I loved it until the very end. I'm sure it seems sort of lame in the beginning, but there was definitely some intense moments where they had people had, like, obviously there was lockups are a common part of the day, not as common as qualifying, but still an interesting race. The drivers seemed so loose and just seemed like they really enjoyed their drive. Wish it wasn't just a 2-horse race at the end of the year, but still glad to see the guys still duke it out at this point in the season. There is only two races left. Again, here are the final results of the race. The next race will be in Sao Paulo, Brazil on November 13th is the race. That's Sunday. It's 2 weeks from now. And until then, I'm Brandon, the American Formula One fan. Subscribe if you're new. Like this video. See you guys in 2 weeks or so. Bye.